Yes, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Canon Podcast. I am here to answer your questions in a more private setting. Sorry, guys, we are a little bit late with some technical difficulties. It is early in the morning. Thank you all for waiting. I appreciate everything. First off, thank you to Keaton Jacobs for becoming a member. That is brilliant news. And of course, I am so happy to see that Saka has been doing brilliantly on international break, because that is one thing that we'll try to discuss a little bit in terms of maybe some of the interesting comments that came from it. I mean, we had a very, very interesting comment from Declan Rice in terms of coming back and dictating his role, talking a little bit about the freedom that was involved there. However, we are here to answer your questions, not my questions. So thank you guys so much for stepping in. Thank you guys so much for attending. Let's go right into it. So we're going to get right into the Discord. And of course, guys, if you did want to get priority access in terms of some of the questions that we did answer or ask both on the main pod and in other podcasts similar to this, you can do so, of course, by becoming a member and joining in the link down below. So we got so many questions in terms of our members. So the first one will be from Kevin from our Discord. If you had to say, or at least make a solid argument for each of our players to be at the best or top 5 in the world at a particular attribute or action, what would it be? Example being Timber 1v1, Gyökeres running the channels, etc. So I think when we're kind of discussing some of these things, the difference is when you're top 5 at a league or in the club, it's a very different story. So when you're talking about globally, I would say Jurrien Timber is a brilliant example, because I don't think that there is somebody 1v1 from fullback positions that is more consistent at locking up their opposition winger. So that's the very first thing. I think that, when you're discussing some of the differences in terms of complete fullbacks, you might have some changes. So that could definitely be something to keep in mind. However, I think from a perspective of like 1v1 attributes in terms of locking up your winger out wide, Jurrien Timber is among the best in the world at that. I also think Gabriel Magalhaes is the most potent center back from set pieces in world football. Not just in terms of this last year, but pretty much for the last 2 to 3 years. I don't think there's been a more productive fullback. It's kind of a change in that regard. So I think we haven't really seen somebody that productive in Europe in this long. So I think Gabriel Magalhaes is another one. I'm going to try to go throughout the team to see whether or not we've got some other qualities. I think William Saliba is unique in his ability to display controlled aggression, but I think Virgil van Dijk, whilst he's still playing, kind of offers that complement. So yeah, for me, I wouldn't say it's like considerably best in the world, but almost tied with Van Dijk in that aspect. But there's less of a competition. The other two, I think, are a lot more clear. In terms of David Raya and what we might find there, you could make an argument for David Raya being the most consistent at producing clean sheets, which is definitely something that you might want to talk about a bit more. However, I think that it's kind of dependent on Thibaut Courtois. It's kind of dependent on some other goalkeepers as well. So I think bias-wise, you might think in the last couple seasons, I don't know too many keepers that have produced the amount of clean sheets that David Raya has been able to do. So, and that's more of a difficult thing to attribute, because clean sheets isn't necessarily an attribute. But I do think, as far as attributes go, he's one of the best sweeper keepers, I think, in world football. And his proactivity in terms of claiming crosses is something that I think is best in the world at this point. I think Declan Rice has probably the cleanest tackling technique in world football. He's the only player I know specifically that's able to almost make a tackle a progression. So when he is going in, it's kind of this really unique thing that he's able to be progressive with a tackle. I don't know a player in world football that's able to do that. Neither do I know a player in world football that's able to have his consistency of delivery from set pieces. I think there are better people from the half spaces. There are people with better delivery. In world football, I think Trent Alexander-Arnold, for example, has some of the best delivery in world football, like from an open play perspective. But Declan Rice and his ability off set pieces now 2 years running is something where you could argue is up there for best in the world, in addition to a lot of the stuff that he's been able to do defensively that we know, especially with that progressive tackle. And then moving slightly up, I think Bukayo Saka is world class at decision making, and we were due a monster season. I have some thoughts on Zach that I think might get me banned from YouTube, but on a personal level, I feel that Bukayo Saka is and was on course for a kind of a record-breaking season last year before injuries. And as long as he's injury-free, I think we could see something very, very special. His decisiveness is just incredibly world-class. I've made the comment on the podcast that I feel he downloads packages pre-game, and it's to do with his intelligence, and it's to do with his ability to understand space like no one else, kind of in this Arsenal 11. So from that perspective, probably the best in the world at decision making. He knows exactly what to do. May not do something from a street footballer's perspective, but knows exactly how to make the right decision in the right moment for the most effectiveness. That can translate left, right, in defensive thirds, middle thirds, final thirds. So, yeah, I think decision making is probably the top of my list at that point. Let me see what's next. Going through it, I think that Eberechi Eze's a brilliant playmaker. I don't know if I put him best in the world category. So that for me is kind of the difficulty in that. Benny Goodman, my voice is a little echoey. Okay, 1 second. Let me try to fix that. Just give me 1 second. So, Benny, just let me know if that's kind of fixed it. I hope that has been a little bit better. So, in terms of, 1 second. Let me try to fix it a bit more. So, Benny, can you let me know if that's a little bit better, and maybe anybody in the audience as well? A mill reaction, what time is it for me? It was 8:13 a.m., so I was trying to get this done at like 7:30 a.m. for me. But yes, Benny, let me know if that is a little bit better for you. So in all, just to kind of complete this for Kevin, I would say going back to front, Urian Timber, in terms of his 1v1 defending out wide from a fullback position, being able to lock up opposition wingers, is best in the world category for me. That's going to be undoubted. I think Gabriel Magalhaes and his ability to be consistent as a goal scoring threat from set pieces, best in the world. I don't really see a comparison in world football that's able to match that. I think David Raya, in terms of his ability to claim crosses as well and be proactive as a goalkeeper, is best in the world. It's actually something that we've highlighted as a goalkeeping recruitment profile. So that specific skill is something that I think he's best in the world at. William Saliba, in terms of his controlled aggression, I will do an honorable mention for, because I think him and Van Dijk are tied for it. But there is no center backs better in world football that are able to control their aggression and be able to kind of cut out opposition so frequently. But the two of them are almost tied for that. I don't think I would put Saliba better than Van Dijk and Van Dijk better than Saliba. They're almost at equal playing fields. They can share the crown in that regard. And then kind of moving on up, Declan Rice is for me best in the world in terms of his tackling technique. There is nobody better that is able to control large spaces and being left alone. So yeah, I think that Declan Rice's ability to eat up ground, control space, but really make that tackle a progressive tackle, best in the world at that particular skill. Then moving on up, it really goes to Bukayo Saka for me. And then, Saka with his world-class decision making. And I want to highlight that intelligence with Bukayo Saka because I don't think he gets at all, praised for it enough. It's an intelligence above all else, and the ability to make world-class decision making in the moment for the right moment for the most impact. So that was a brilliant question. Thank you so much. I had a really good question from one of you guys now in the live comments that I did want to go to, and it was kind of unique actually, and it was from Louis Gerard. Thank you so much, by the way, for the question. What's your favorite Arsenal memory? Maybe childhood, middle years, and modern memory. Ooh. Okay. Not to be sappy, but I'll try to pick one from each stage of my life. But I think when I was looking at my childhood favorite memory of Arsenal, I'll be honest, getting the kit. It was from a childhood perspective. I just think that you're all about enjoyment, and for me, like when you do enter coaching, or if you do like to enter coaching or anything like that, passion for the game is something that you should be talking about up until the age of like 12 or 13. Anything below that age group, do not talk about the sports in a serious way, please. It's about developing your love for the game, and that's just my philosophy with it. And I just remember every season being able to go to the store and like pick up the kit, and that was just something that I felt like gave me power in a sense. Like I loved the jersey, I loved getting the kit, and yeah, it made me feel like I was a footballer. Like I remember putting on my jersey just to go out back to go practice, or just putting on my jersey. I remember sleeping with that thing. So it was, yeah, I think from a childhood sense, and it was more just I loved the color red. I think when I was really, really little, and then obviously like I've grown to like love the club. But from a very honest perspective, I think when I was really, really young, I tell people a lot, I kind of followed Arsenal by chance in a sense, where I walked into a store, loved the color red, and Arsenal A were the first jersey that was red in the lineup. So from like a little kid, I picked that jersey as that's the one that I wanted. And every year from like, I don't know, 5, 6 onwards, it was just something that, I was ecstatic about getting. So I think that would be my favorite childhood memory, just learning to love the game, but feeling like the jersey gave you a sense of power, like almost that you were, I don't know, you dream of yourself in stadiums. We've all done it as fans, don't we? And then as I grew up a little bit in terms of my middle years, and I started to appreciate football a little bit more, I don't know if there was a specific moment, but I felt proud to represent a team and follow a team and be a fan of a team that played the right way. That was important to me, I have to admit. Being able to recognize and starting to grow with the sport, where I took it a little bit more seriously in my middle years, I think that I began to appreciate the way to play, and the idea of the one-touch football, and the idea that we tended to play differently to everybody else. There wasn't this there wasn't this like robotic nature to our play. It was so free form, and it was something that I don't think many people could replicate. Yes, you had Barca in terms of the tiki taka, but our play with, I'd say from 2006, which is more my middle years personally, up until 2013 ish, is some of the most creative football I've seen, in the world sport. And I felt proud representing that. Then in terms of a modern memory, in terms of my favorite Arsenal memory, that's a really good question. I hope to have it. I don't want to get out of my out of kind of answering your question there, Louis, because it's a brilliant question. I hope to have it. I'm still evolving in terms of my most modern memory. I'll be honest. I've always referenced when Thierry Henry came back, and the commentator just did something to me when he scored that goal. And of course, the commentary, he may be cast in bronze, but he's still capable of truly golden moments. That sent me over the edge. It was one of the first times I've been truly, truly emotional, like almost tearing. Being able to hear that was just a brilliant moment in general. Our Leicester moment as well was a really top moment in modern history where I really thought we would go and push on to win the league once we did have that last gap winner with Welbeck from the Ozil cross. However, I don't want to run away from it. I hope to have my best modern memory, hopefully this season, when we win silverware. So for me, my modern memory will always be chasing the next success. So that's kind of me in an Arsenal light. So thank you, Louis. That was actually a really brilliant question. So in terms of, I think I've got a couple questions, both from Nash. I think it's brilliant in terms of the Saka thing as well. I agree, but I got a couple questions in terms of some of the football stuff. Do you guys study football? And Nash had also made a question, I believe, a little bit earlier up, like how do you get into coaching a little bit more? I'll go back to some of the Discord questions right after this, but look, you can do whatever you want in terms of trying to set your mind to it. If you want to take the coaching, if you want to take the plunge into taking things more formally, there's a lot of courses out there that you can get started. And I think your first role in terms of is just loving the game, watching matches, being comfortable about doing that. When you talk about I think studying and learning the game, there is no prerequisite to this. And there's just countless examples of that in the sport. So I would encourage somebody, if you do want to learn a little bit more about tactics, to commit to watching a game a day. And it's actually quite a bit. So if you can commit to that, and if at the end of it, you still love doing what you're doing, then coaching is something for you. And thinking about the game in that way is something for you. I know for me, it's my release. I try to watch a game a day. Sometimes I'm not successful with life and everything, but it's my form of relaxation. It's my Netflix and chill, so to speak. I love the game. I love watching the game, and I love being involved with it and thinking about it in that way. Of course, you can go down more formal routes. Like I've talked about it before. I've got my UEFA B. I've done that work. You can create a more formal education from it. I don't think you need it. Maybe guys in the comments, you guys can let me down below. I had a couple books that I did read. If you are into the coaching gig and you want to get into the coaching gig, I probably could recommend a couple books to people that are hoping to get into it or want to know a little bit more about it. Maybe we go through that on the tactics corner or something like that. But you guys in the comments, why don't you guys let me know if that's something that you might be interested in. But thank you guys for the question down there. So I'm going to jump back off to the Discord to our lovely members who had some brilliant questions, by the way. There's actually so many to go through here, so bear with me. And guys, of course, in the YouTube comments, I'll try to get to yours. We did a couple there. I'm just going to go back and forth between a bunch of questions because truly we got so many questions. So thank you. Everything. Okay. So question from Dinny, who is always brilliant at bringing these questions, by the way. So Dinny, thank you so much for your question. There has been talk a little bit about some mental profile, so I won't go too long into it, but I just wanted to reference Denny, who had probably my favorite question of the last pod in terms of analyzing mental profiles. Super nerdy, probably something that a lot of people may not be their form of content, but I think it's something that we need to talk about a bit more in terms of extrovert, introverts, how you can display your ability. So there's the physical, there's the technical that we always know, and then there's mental. And I think mental is that step to allow you to show the ability you have, and whether you have it or you don't, i.e. talent. I'm a big fan of this kind of mantra in general, where hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And that is something that I used to tell my players all the time. It's something that I believe to my core. And so, really, it's kind of one of those things that I think is vital to the way that you kind of use that hierarchy. For me, physicality between the three. So I'm trying to changing your question, Denny. But if I was to look at what's most important in a player, for example, between the physical traits, the technical traits, and the mental traits, and again, this is open to interpretation, but this is just how I view it. I do view physical as ultimately my biggest trait evaluation when I'm a scout or I'm looking at a player. Why? Because to me, your genetics and your physicality limit your abilities, and those aren't necessarily coached. I can't coach somebody to become taller. I can't coach somebody to have a larger stride length. I think you can improve aspects of sprinting techniques, but I'm really not going to drastically change someone's acceleration, in the first 5 yards. Uh, so I think that when I'm evaluating physical traits, those are things that I tend to say as limits that I can't coach. Whereas I think technical ability, maybe it's the coach in me. I always feel as though I can coach bad habits out. I can almost coach, uh, a technical ability or a technical skill that's lacking. So I probably put that below physical traits, and then mental for me is kind of like this umbrella term that I think just allows me to see both of these traits. And I had an interesting kind of path towards the mental analysis between there. And it's, for example, I think my biggest mistake, because we always talk about how much stuff that we got right, is I looked at Keto Taylor Hart, who was an Arsenal youth, who I thought just had absolutely brilliant potential. I think a lot of people that follow me on X would have heard about this. And he taught me quite a bit about the importance of the mental aspect in scouting. I think it's something that I had always considered quite heavily, but it was more learning to understand mental profiles as an ability to show your talent was what Taylor Hart showed me, because that boy had everything from a talent perspective, and it didn't quite work out. And so that I'd say mental does go above the physical. And I'm still learning to really iron out my kind of objective terms for how I define mental profiles. And that's going to be unique. You look at things like reaction after a goal, you look at things like reaction after a bad action, and those can inform you about like work ethic, motivation, instincts. There's a lot of mental cues, but I don't think I've developed a mental profile I'm confident in kind of bringing to the world quite yet. So I'm still developing that, and I probably share that with you guys, the community, as soon and when or if I'm able to do so. So yeah, that would be kind of a change from Danny's question a little bit. I know he's highlighted the mental profiles, but that's just kind of how I would rank traits just in general. So I think somebody had mentioned really quickly from here, what Noah Jensen, what's my day job? I am a doctor of philosophy, not quite a resident. I am a postdoctoral fellow, so I actually work as a project manager for a hospital downtown here in Toronto, and I work in palliative cancer care currently, developing kind of clinical trial networks for palliative cancer care, which is definitely something close that I have to my heart. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but like my brother passed away from cancer. So to be able to do a job that I just feel like makes a difference for people that are afflicted by that terrible disease is something that I hold pretty dear. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit about me and my motivation outside of work. So I think it's difficult sometimes for me if you see me at all in meeting rooms during the day. It's because here in Canada our work days are and timelines are a little bit different from people down in the UK. So, but that is my current day job. So we'll pop off to the Discord again, and this time I'll try to highlight somebody else. So this is from JPD. Timber has been incredible. So how does Ben White get in the team outside of rotation? What are Ben White games, and where would he be preferred tactically to Urian Timms? Okay, the right back position in general, I think, has the potential to show everybody what true rotation would look like. And to be honest with you, I'm going to preface this little segment by um, also the key fact. I need to see how Ben White recovers from injury. Do we have the same Ben White? I don't know. And we do have to find that out. However, when we're trying to define Ben White games and we're trying to answer the question specifically about like how does Ben White get in the team, I think he on talent and what we've seen from the last couple seasons gets in quite easily. There's a complete difference in the final third in terms of his ability to access it. And I think that Urian Timber does a brilliant job getting the ball to the final third. However, once he's in the final third, his ability to consistently affect play is something that I think he's still working on. By the way, still very young, only 24 years old. I'd encourage everybody to go to the kind of the scouted we did a little bit to critique the Urian Timber aspects. Firstly, it's his impact in terms of crossing and creating more consistent output. I think Urian Timber is brilliant on the half turn, brilliant on being able to wriggle out of tight situations. And I think that he's brilliant in terms of his ability to lock down defenders out wide. Like we've talked about all those things. However, when he gets to the final third, he has some levels to go in terms of, being able to affect play in the same way that Ben White is able to so consistently do. He offers just a different dimension in terms of the running power. And I think that his ability in terms of the half space cross, in terms of his ability to also affect play in terms of goals as well, something that Urian Timber is kind of cropping up with a little bit this season. Ben White is just a little bit more proactive and asking more questions in the final third than Urian Timber is currently. He's more decisive in the final third. So if we're looking at, a stubborn low block that's really deep into their own half, somebody that's more consistent about creating running separation whilst in already tight situations is a game for Ben White. I think when you have, a top six match, but more specifically a really top left winger, so like a Kvaratskhelia, you might want to throw on a Urian Timber to combat those things. That's not quite a Ben White game. I mean, we have space there, so it's not a case of trying to exploit space. So I'd say any game that is tending from a mid block to a low block that we're struggling to break down the door and we're looking to move people in different ways, that's a Ben White game. That's a game of a running game. If we have space to operate in, I think it's a little bit more Urian Timber. And I think particularly when you have such a top left winger as well, that's a game for Urian Timber specifically. If you had the Mohamed Salah equivalent on the left and you wanted to really combat that portion and destroy that aspect, that's kind of the game I would call for a Urian Timber. But I think we need to see a little bit more rotation. And the idea of true rotation is never more true than with a Ben White and a Urian Timber. But we also have to keep in mind, as I said at the beginning of this segment, what is the state of kind of his fitness at that point? Because I also think a lot of people have forgotten. I'd love to do a scouted on Ben White if people wanted to see that, to remind people a little bit more about what we've lost. But also, I don't know if that makes the most sense if he's not the same player that he was. So I'm definitely learning and trying to see and pick up things, whether or not he's kind of at the same fitness level that he was before to perform in the same way. So that's kind of how I view the whole Ben White, Urian Timber difference. Let's still go on to Discord, and then I'll pop off to Patreon because we love you Patreon members, and I'll be able to do a couple of your questions. And of course, guys, if you guys could pop off your questions here in the live YouTube chat, I have no problem trying to look at some of those things as well. So from the pod, we'll do from Cole on the Discord, who again is somebody that we interact with again. And of course, just to let everybody know, you guys get priority access again from these questions and pods like this. So if you do enjoy and want your questions read a little bit more regularly, you can just pop off and become, of course, a member of the Discord or a member of the Patreon, and your questions will be prioritized in that manner. So from Cole, where do you see the club in 5 years? Tactics, global presence, squad pillars, etc. Another big, bold question. I love that when I go live on these questions, we always get these like very serious existential questions broadly. Okay. I think that where do I see the club in 5 years? I want to be fair. The past 5 years has been about relevancy, and it's about getting yourself up to an ability to compete. There has to be no other scenario than a Champions League winning team and a Premier League winning team. I think when you look at the talent of this squad, if I'm going to list off what I did at the beginning, in which we have so many players that are best in the world at a certain category, if I'm going to talk about the team in the manner that I do, the expectations towards that need to match. If I look at this and I'm honestly telling you what I feel the talent of this team is, I think the talent of this team is capable of winning major honors. And in 5 years, it shouldn't be a case of like, I hope to see it. It should be a case of in 5 years, we have won. So I'd like to establish in 5 years an era of dominance, I would say. So I've gotten these past 5 years to get up to a level to compete. I hope the next 5 years is not just winning once in 5 years, but it's winning multiple major honors and the big ones, like Premier Leagues, Champions League, and kind of using the next 5 years to establish ourselves as, uh, I would probably say, not like, but maybe like the dominant force in England. Like I want it to be our era. Manchester City and the Centurions started their own era with Pep. They had their time. Klopp was revered. I don't know if they necessarily had an era, but they were absolutely successful and won major honors themselves. I think it's Arsenal's time to lead the pack and to be kind of the one that everyone is chasing consistently and being feared for and being referenced to. I think there's a lot of times that we're referenced for our good play. So I'll talk from like the global presence perspective. I want us to dominate England in the next 5 years. And in terms of tactics, that's an interesting one. Um, Again, not to get super nerdy, but I have almost always predicted this idea of 4-4-2 being a lot more prevalent, which I think we're seeing in world football quite a bit more. We're having a lot of more striker partnerships, a lot more true double pivots. I think that in the next 5 years to combat that, I've always said that I feel football follows like cycles. So in order to combat kind of 4-4-2 as kind of a formation, just in general, um, I would say the three at the back is going to come into vogue a little bit more sooner. And so I think that in order to combat that 4-4-2 formation, three at the back will be something that happens. I don't know if we will necessarily adopt it, but it might be kind of a case again. When Antonio Conte brought it in, it was more of a league reacting to it. And I think there's going to be a little bit of that interplay. I can see three at the back formations, three diamond three kind of formations really come into it as well and be a lot more prominent for us. So whilst we have a 4-4-2, I don't know if we'll have the same flying fullbacks that the league will do, but I think we'll do a little bit more of Johan Cruyff's true idea of true football with a little bit more three diamond three setups. And I've kind of talked a little bit about that in previous pods because the 4-4-2 and the shift to a three diamond three is very easy on the pitch. And I'm happy to maybe do that on like the tactics corner if people want to see those things. But tactically, I think those are things that we're going to see. We're going to see people attacking with 6 channels, in my opinion. We're going to see less of people attacking with 5. I think we're going to see more commitment forward because more teams are willing and able to do the defensive work in today's society. So I think that you're going to see a lot more willingness to add players into attack. We've seen moments of it, but I think starting with legitimately 6 players in attack, and I think the best teams are going to start to rely a little bit more on kind of their defensive talent to cover space, generally speaking. Because people, and I think the general tactical level is so good in the modern era. That's the one thing I'll say is I think that in previous decades, the spread between talent, I don't know if football talent was necessarily different, but I think the talent of teams and the defensive discipline of teams in general, not the defending, but the tactics in approaching. Like Stoke, for example, would play Stoke's way. And I think right now you've got the modern Stoke, trying to play possession football. Like that's kind of the world we're in. So I don't feel that we're seeing necessarily better defending, but we're seeing more disciplined tactical performances, more buy-in to positional football, and I think we're seeing less variety in general. Really quickly, because that was a really heavy question. I want to keep this light a little bit. What's my hair routine? This is called Bedhead. It's sponsored by, your favorite mattress. So my hair routine is Bedhead this morning. Generally speaking, it is, I'll be honest with you, it's just a simple Head and Shoulders. And then I run my hand through my hair. I don't do anything. I don't have a care routine normally. I think, obviously when I'm done this, and I'm not done in making podcasts so early, like obviously, like, I don't know, I'll shower or do whatever, but that's I'm a very simple man. Anybody that knows me in my normal life will know I don't really, I still have clothes from like middle school, if that helps. And I'm not somebody that's into fashion or knowing very much about routines in general. But yes, this is sponsored by Bedhead. So Bedhead, sponsor us. And Tempur-Pedic, that would be great. I'd love a Tempur-Pedic mattress. So yeah, maybe throw that my way. But anyways, that is my care routine. This is actually a really great question by Madison E. So thank you for your question. Beyond the perceived talent of a player, how much do you think a good coach can help lift the roof of how talented a player can become? It is in my DNA to want to say coaching can make the difference. I've learned that I can never be black and white about how I define talent. But I fundamentally believe a good coach can make a world of difference to a player. And for example, I think that Gabriel Magalhaes is the perfect example of what brilliant coaching can be. That's tangible for people. Like I look at, Mikel Arteta's work and being able to coach Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang to be kind of competent in terms of dealing with long balls. I think coaching in general, and I hope, because it's just how I view the game, that from a technical skill, I can teach you base skills. I think talent, it allows you almost to, how do I put this? Okay, so talent can give you a C, a B, or an A. Okay. It defines you in those metrics. I think it's very rare, although it can happen, but it's very rare for coaching to get you from a failing grade to an A plus student. Like it can happen, and there's obviously outliers, but I almost see that coaching, it allows you to like improve your grade level. So if you were a C minus, it can get you to a C plus. Talent defines what scope you're in. And I do think, if I had to give you an answer and not to sit on the fence, I think that coaching drives a little bit more difference than talent can. But when you talk about the elite talents and you talk about it at the elite level, talent drives more than coaching. So for players that aren't as talented, coaching becomes a lot more of a driver than the specific talent, because the talent spectrum is not that big. But when you're talking about like your Mbappe's, your Vinny Juniors, your Bukayo Saka's, and you're comparing them to your Fellaini's and things like that, the talent gap is just so large at that point that I don't think coaching is what determines it as much. I think your talent at the upper echelons is what drives a lot of those things. And I think that, when you're a little bit lower, though, for example, and we're talking about people that maybe aren't at the elite of the elite, and you're looking at those qualities, then I think coaching tends to drive out quite a bit. So you look at your McTominays, for example. Nothing wrong with that. He's not an elite midfielder. However, we can see what coaching has done at Manchester United, and then when he goes to Napoli and is in a different system, and coaching can bring out more of your talent there. So I'd probably summarize that response into talent is probably the biggest driver at the elite level, and I think coaching tends to supplement and become a little bit more of a backseat when you're talking about the top 1%. Your Thierry Henry, your Bergkamps, your legends of the game. When you get to that status, I think that coaching becomes secondary. When you're talking about pretty much 95% of other players, coaching is a huge driver. It's the main driver. It's how you can affect most people about showing their talent. I would say broadly, talent makes you a C student, a B student, or an A student, but coaching can make you from an A minus to an A plus. Coaching can make you from a B minus to a B plus. Those kind of things. But yeah, that's kind of my response, Madison. But brilliant question. So guys, we'll probably go for another 20 more minutes just to let you guys all know. So if you did want to just, pop in, yes, CC, the preeminent driver. Unfortunately, I've got my own. Mine would be a 5-yard burst to that question, or something like that. But yes, so we'll go for another 20 more minutes so you guys can pop off your questions down below. I am going to, sorry guys, respectfully go back to the Discord as well and try to get through all their questions and maybe some of the Patreon, but I will end on lovely YouTube. So thank you guys for joining me live. So your questions will be answered as well. But we'll probably go for like another 20-ish minutes. So this is from Example on the Discord, but he spells it with an S, so X sample. Other than reduce prices / win matches and trophies, what can the club do, in your opinion, to improve the fan experience separately, continue to foster the positive relationship with the team since 2022-2020 FUI season? Brilliant spelling there. Okay, I am going to be honest with you. I'm not the best person to ask about the fan experience. I've not been to the Emirates, so I think I'd be really arrogant suggesting exactly what I would change. I mean, I think making the Emirates a tech stadium is super important. I've seen what they've done in stadiums in America, and I've been to plenty of stadiums kind of in America. And the one thing is that, the Emirates looks to me old in that respect. So I think, I don't know, whether that's 5G or connectiveness, I don't know. People that actually go to the games may have to tell me, but making this stadium truly a tech experience seems like a very easy change that they can do. I think that the club can talk to us more. I'll be honest. I don't feel that we're as accessible. And I think one of the major things that let me down last year was the whole movement towards the TIFO with PSG and how the club denied that. Those are easy wins. I don't care about the political and the ability to do those things, but we can do a better job in the club about letting fans get involved when they want to do initiatives like that, and let the fans dictate some of those things. So I think we can do that a bit better. And I do think that we as a club, although we do it fairly well, I think that we can access the club a bit better as fans. And I think opening that relationship a bit more, like we've got such brilliant minds here. Like I'm not just saying here on the channel, I mean, and we love you guys for supporting the community, but I do feel like we've got so much talent. I know it here from our community that we built here on Patreon, and as well as in the Discord and stuff. Like I value everybody who's become a member so much, and you guys are so brilliant yourselves, not even just in supporting this channel. Like I'm just thinking Arsenal can do a better job about recruiting fans and getting fans involved in the everyday. And I think some of that movement, by the way, in terms of recording some new board members like Ben, who came in, who was kind of this kind of more social media presence, who has been a fan for years and is now added to the board. That could be something that, is something that I'd like to see more of, more opportunities and more aspects of like fans being able to get involved to make major decisions about the club. So, which I think is something that we always want to see, so yeah, I think beyond that, I would love to, ask people that go regularly to match fans to probably answer a little bit more of that question, because to me, the fan experience is something that I don't think I can necessarily talk about as much being from overseas. So yeah, I'm not as comfortable. Nice to see you, Babs. Long time no see, and we hope to have you on the channel again soon. Much love, my guy. Thank you. We're probably also going to pop off to. I'll do one more probably from the Discord. And sorry, Denny, I feel like we always read your questions, so I do see your question, but I'm gonna do Reg's question. Do I plan on doing a scouted youth highlight for Ibrahim? Yes. Anybody that knows me on Twitter knows that I have selected as my kind of youth talent that I believe quite a bit in, and I think is going to show levels this season. This is a guy that I really think has the potential to come into the first team. I don't think immediately, but he has got serious talent. So we will absolutely be doing a special feature, an Academy special feature on Eve and his new growth spurt, which has just absolutely changed the trajectory of his talent for me. Actually did brilliantly. I think the other day it was either U18s dominated the France midfield that had gone on to win the U17 World Cup previously. So it was a great showing from Eve. But yes, we will absolutely be doing something from Eve. Going on into the Patreon as well, I think probably, let me go through these questions. And guys, if you do have any other questions yourselves, please make sure to drop in. So I think from the Patreon, sorry guys, I'm just pulling this up. If my computer wouldn't be as slow. I'll do one from Ibrahim. So thank you so much, Ibrahim, for your question. Really appreciate that. It's FA. Okay, sorry, Joshua. FA. Ibrahim. I will try to do that better. But if you guys know me, my mispronunciations are famous on this channel. So, but I will try FA. FA is brilliant. So in terms of kind of going through, in terms of our posts, sorry guys, trying to go up. So Ibrahim Alibi. Hi, George. If we were to use your son in midfield, what do you think would be our best pairing alongside him? Of course, I think everybody may not know, but my son, who I call Miles Lewis Skelly, who would be the best pairing alongside? Mate, it's Declan Rice. I think we've got a special talent in Miles, but I think asking him to be the anchor of a midfield is going to restrict his talent. What you need is for Miles to really explode and do what he is able to do on the football pitch. What you have to do is like eel. So Ife. Okay. That's better. Sorry, Joshua. But yes, pairing Miles Lewis Skelly with a Declan Rice, kind of a defensive presence that he's not responsible for necessarily stopping those counterattacks, but he's able to contribute and be a true shuttler. Like, I think the role that Declan has currently for, sorry about that, my texting going off. I think that him having the ability to shuttle and then arrive in different areas, be an option and drop in to help and build up, but not be the main person responsible for build up, being able to get you up the pitch. I think giving him a free role, much like Declan ironically has now, but then reducing Declan to kind of support that role and have somebody on the right who's a bit more creative. That's something that's really brilliant. Like, I mean, for me personally, I would love to see kind of a Declan Rice, Miles Lewis Skelly midfield partnership, not coming from left back, but a true midfield partnership where Miles had a little bit more of the role that Declan had last year in the left, where he could be a bit more advanced. And then Declan's anchoring and doing a little bit more of the role that he's currently doing, sitting a little bit more. Like, I think that would be a brilliant kind of lineup. And actually, one thing that I would love to see in terms of the diamond midfield is I would love to see kind of a Miles Lewis Skelly and a Declan Rice as the two shuttlers on the outside, a kind of Zubimendi in the hole there, and then up top, Ebriche Eze. I think that would be a phenomenal diamond midfield that has pretty much everything that you want in it. So that's the kind of something that I would love to see with Miles specifically in midfield. And then this is from James Housen. George, do you think that the starting midfield lineup against West Ham would be better counterbalanced by Miles at left back than Calafiori? James, you're speaking my language because I believe I said the exact same thing in group chats prior. So balance is this thing that maybe we'll get into on the tactics corner if people really do kind of enjoy those kind of things. But I think the reason that I felt like the Calafiori lineup, at least with West Ham, was a little bit, difficult is because we had a lot of creativity already in the lineup and we needed somebody, for me, with those 2 8s up top to balance it. So if you've already got 2 8s like Odegaard and Eze that you're relying on kind of in that I don't know, in the final third to operate beyond the last line, you've already committed multiple men forward. So to me, to add another in Calafiori who is going to vacate that zone leaves a lot for your six to cover. I mean, it worked out for us, but generally speaking, yes, for solidity, I would like Miles to be in there. And if you're going to operate with 2-8s in that manner, having a left back like Miles as opposed to a Calafiori makes a little bit more sense to me because you've been more adventurous in midfield. So that would be my question or answer rather to that. But James, thank you so much for your comment. And guys, again, I really appreciate you guys sticking with me for like 50. There's almost over 100 of you guys watching live on a random Friday in the morning for me. But I think for you guys, what is it? Almost 2 p.m. in the UK, something like that. So thank you guys so much for sticking with me. And of course, if you guys do enjoy the content, not just this, but we've got Scouteds, we've got rewatches, we've got TCP Live, which is a great show. We've got our main podcast as well. We've got the Tactics Corner that I bring every month. We're having some new ones as well. Just I can probably tease this initiative because you guys are here with me and I'm alone. I can tease a new upcoming initiative that we're going to be doing, which is going to be called Challenge the Hosts or something along those lines. And so an opinion that we've had from the past, we are going to welcome people to come on, have a discussion with us, and to challenge one of our previous opinions. So yes, guys, at Hawks, 8 a.m. here. Thanks, George. About to log on to work. Well, good luck with your work at Hawks. I am going to be going to work and shower and get rid of this bedhead very, very soon once I log off myself. So I hear you and I feel your pain on the work schedule. We'll get this question from Tezzy May. With the Amram comparison and opinions that Arteta was the right guy to change the culture, but we need someone new to win trophies, how rare is it to be both types of managers? And is Arteta? I think that changing the culture and being able to win, first off, Mikel is that guy for me. I don't believe that he's not a guy that can win major honors. I just have to be upfront and honest about that. I think there's pressure on him. It's not like an undying faith. If he's unable to do so, then obviously we reevaluate and we go and we find someone that can. Personally, my subjective opinion is that he is both types of managers. And I think to be that type of manager is incredibly rare. I mean, you look at the best in the game to be those things, right? Like you look at your Peps, you look at your Arsene Wengers, you look at your Alex Fergusons, you look at your Carlo Ancelottis, your Jose Mourinho's back in the day. Your greats were able to do both. Change a culture, change a narrative, change a team to be their own, and then win with that team. That's like the ultimate praise from a coaching perspective. If you want your A+ coaches, that's what they're able to do. At baseline, you should be able to change the culture if you're a good and very competent manager. I think the great managers are actually able to do it in different ways, that they can change clubs in different ways. That's what makes you from like good of just changing and isolating a culture to great. Because, for example, like Ruben Amorim, like I don't want to be rude, like what he did with Sporting was brilliant, but his ability to translate that to Manchester United, I always had doubts. But that's why I just felt like he was a good, not great manager. And I think great managers are able to do it in different leagues with different teams, but regardless, able to steady the ship and do it in different ways. So that's what makes a great coach for me. The elite coaches and like is when they can do those things and win in multiple different teams and win with multiple different philosophies. And I think that, Mikel is somebody that's able to do that. We've changed so much in our iterations of Arsenal from when he first took over to now that he's been able to successfully mount multiple title challenges in different ways. The last step is to win. It's the most important one. I'm not just hopeful. I think he will. But again, if he isn't, then that's something that you have to establish kind of as a fan and see whether or not you want to continue with, right? But thank you, Tessie, for your question. That was brilliant. So in terms of some of your last questions, I think I'll answer some of this. What do you feel about Kasim? What do you feel about the stupid Caicedo versus right debate on Twitter? There is a lot to be said here. look, I got into it. I don't know if anybody knows, but like I am not one to hide my opinion. So I was definitely defending the Rice flag. Look, what it boils down to is, and I don't want to like, look, both are world class. Let's just have that there. And they're ultimately very different players. Okay. And honestly, ironically, very complementary. I think Rice and Caicedo together make a brilliant pivot, like the best pivot that you could think of. And I don't really have a tribal flag to lay here, but to me, Declan Rice is a clear level above Caicedo defensively. And offensively, the gap between the two is a lot closer than people think. Caicedo's brilliance is more about being a Conte esque shuttler. Okay. And it's about what does that mean on a team? Declan Rice's ability, guys, we don't talk about the way that he changes teams so consistently against elite opposition, the output that he's able to so consistently generate to become. You can't call Declan Rice not technical, but then admit he's got the best set piece delivery in the world. It's being disingenuous. We don't talk about Declan Rice's intelligence and crashing the box. We don't talk about Declan Rice's ability, by the way, to completely control a midfield. I have yet to see Caicedo reach that influence. I mean, Caicedo is younger. He's only 23. He's 3 years younger than that. I think there's a lot of potential there, but Caicedo's ultimately more of an 8. Declan Rice can be really anything that he wants to be. I mean, in last year, he was, let's just have it right. He was used in a role that no one said he could do and still garner not just decent, but incredible goal and assist output. He was able to change what he was. And I don't think that you can put Caicedo, and he'll probably operate better higher, but he can't do the things that Declan Rice can do defensively. I think Caicedo is brilliant with the game in front of him and being able to chase. But, in terms of defending space and being able to actually be a presence that him alone will stop attacks coming onto him is something that I think is something that he's going to struggle with. And despite being used as a 6 at Chelsea, he and his attributes are more suited towards an 8 and an 8 role. And I actually think he'll go another level when he's allowed more license to be used a little bit more higher up. Now, I've always felt that when you look at Caicedo and some of his earlier tapes, even with his earlier tapes back in Ecuador, this was a guy with brilliant potential going forward as well. And I think that Chelsea are missing a trick there, not using him in that role. But they're both world class. I don't need to downgrade one versus the other. I just think that Declan Rice is a more complete player. The gap between the two defensively is a lot bigger than people say, and the gap or perceived gap offensively is a lot smaller than people say for me. So that's kind of the where I stand on the Twitter debates. But I did get involved, of course. But yeah, I just don't feel like you have to. I think part of the frustration when you get to these international breaks is when you have these player wars, you're supposed to say the other player's shit. And he's just not. He's world class. Like Caicedo is just brilliant. I wanted him. I would still have him. I would take him in a heartbeat. He's a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant player. I just personally have Declan Rice higher. I have Declan Rice elite. I really don't know if I have another player in the world that I'd swap Declan Rice for in my team. And that's just the level. That's honestly it. But I still think Caicedo is probably like top 3, top 5 in the position of DM, let's call it. Or as 6'8", he's up there in the world as like top 3, top 5 right now. So yeah, that's kind of what I personally feel. Who is a better replacement for Trossard? This is from Nathan_SMH. Yildiz or Semenyo? Okay. We're going to be doing scouteds on both. Nathan, I'm just going to cut to the chase. I'm going to tell you what I think, and it's going to be Semenyo for me right now, especially in the way that we play. Yildiz is a brilliant talent, and we'll be doing a scouted on him. I like to call him the little Italian son, who has a little bit more to his game. But he has that ability to be kind of that inside forward. And there's a lot I like about Yildiz. It's just, for me, Semenyo offers a lot more guarantee in terms of contact from behind, a lot more potency in transitions, a lot more flexibility to both sides of the pitch. And ultimately, Semenyo is a lot more potent now in terms of the things that we need: high shot volume, high touches into the penalty box, and he has an ability to explode. Like I've been yelling the Semenyo kind of. Sorry, Vincent. Yeah, like he is Turkish. I just call him, Italian because he plays in Italy. But for me, Semenyo is ready, and we need ready now output. And I think that Yildiz has a lot of potential. It's just for me right now, I'm very much in Semenyo. I've been in the Semenyo camp all of last year. Anybody who knows and loves the channel knows that I am a massive Semenyo fan, and I've been kind of screaming that tune. And I mean, I would argue, like Nathan, you talk about Semenyo making Martinelli redundant. I think that Yildiz is a lot more in that category. He's a lot more similar to Martinelli than Semenyo. Semenyo is more of a battering ram. He actually is a little bit more of a different profile than a Martinelli. If you got Yildiz, guarantee is the end of kind of Martinelli, because those two are a lot more similar than Semenyo would be. And then at Hawks to have kind of a follow-up question: if you can make the choice between Semenyo or Barcola, Barcola. I've said it last year. My list was Barcola, Semenyo. Maintain that to be the case this year. And then Bahoa is from Eintracht Frankfurt, is somebody that I'm slowly making my plan C, the prospect. So that would be my list so far. I would have Barcola is my number one favorite, Semenyo for my Premier League proven kind of plan B and more realistic option, and then Bahoa for the kind of youth potential prospect that I'm really excited about that you could see. So that would be kind of my left wing tier list if I could buy somebody. Okay, guys, we have been going for basically an hour of me waffling. I hope you guys enjoyed the question and answer period. So we are going to kind of tie that up. Thank you so much for all your questions. I hope that you guys all felt like we answered your questions. I hope that you guys enjoyed some of this Q&A. And guys, of course, if you ever feel like we could improve the channel, I know we kind of sometimes say this, but please make sure you guys drop down in the comments if there's a content that you'd like us to see, if there's something that I can do to improve the channel itself, not have bedhead, one of those things. Any of those things are all welcome. We really appreciate your constructive criticism to make the channel better, because we want to make it better for you. So thank you so much with that. Guys, if you love all the content, please drop down below. Last little bit of promo, you can become a link to the YouTube membership down below, or you can have a link to the Patreon membership down below, where you get a bunch more content. And we really love making you guys a part of the community. So thank you guys so much. Really love being able to kind of have these more intimate talks with you guys. Always nerve-wracking, but I hope it went kind of well for you guys. So thank you so much. Much love. I hope you guys all have a great rest of the day. And we will catch you guys probably next on the main pod. So thank you so much, everybody. And remember, thanks for keeping it Arsenal.
Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. This was one kind of queue the ladies thoroughly enjoyed.
Electrifying. Electrifying. Inspiration.